Hello everyone, welcome to Willadine's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a loaf of bread. My intent is to make a baguette, so I have 1 cup of flour in here. I have some yeast and some sugar, a teaspoon of yeast and some sugar in here. I have a half a teaspoon of salt here, and I have a tablespoon of olive oil in here, and over in this cup, measuring cup, we have a half a cup of water. So we're going to mix all this together and knead a bread dough and get it ready for the oven. Okay, so we have our ingredients here. We're going to start mixing now. Bread is one of the easiest things to make if you have a simple bread recipe. Of course, there are some recipes that are very complicated, that requires additional ingredients and different techniques in those breads. But this one here is a simple bread, and we're going to get our ingredients here in the bowl, and then we're going to start mixing here. So we just want to incorporate this liquid into the flour. Just like this here, and once we get it to this consistency here, like this, next we're going to turn it out on the counter and start kneading it. So there we go, that looks good. And I just want you to get a good look at this consistency here, and then we're going to turn this out on the counter. Okay, so I floured the surface here, and next I'm going to turn this dough out onto the counter, like so. And get it all out of the bowl here. Get all this out, like so. And then we're gonna start kneading this. Now this is a small amount of dough, so for me it's easy to knead. So we're going to knead this dough for about 3-4 minutes. Get everything incorporated in there well. As you can see, it's not sticking to our counter. Keep going here. Okay, so I've been kneading this bread for about 4 minutes now. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a ball with it here. A nice ball. And we have our pan here. Going to add a little oil to the pan. And just kind of rub that in there like this. And then we place our dough in there. Place our dough in here like this here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to let this rise. We're going to let the dough rise. Now, it usually takes an hour and a half to 2 hours for it to double in size. So we're going to cover it up with some plastic, and we'll let it rise, and then we'll come back and shape it out. Okay, so our dough has risen. It's actually at least twice the size that it was earlier. So it's ready to come out of this bowl here. And what we're going to do is we're going to shape it into a baguette. So we're going to flour our surface here. And then I'm going to roll the dough out here. Now this dough is very soft to the touch. So as you can see, just my fingers pressing down on it. So it's kind of light and fluffy. So what we want to do here is we want to kind of elongate it a little bit, because we want our baguettes to be probably about 10 to 12 inches long. So Now some people roll the dough out. I think rolling the dough actually makes the bread a little tougher. So I like to just use my fingers to kind of press it out. And if you come over here to the other side, it gets easier. As you can see, here it's coming out here. And I'm just going to keep working this until I get it to the size that I'm trying to get to here. Okay, so now we're looking good. So the next thing we want to do is we want to fold this over so we'll get a nice baguette. So I'm gonna fold it almost in half here. Fold the other half over here. And then we're gonna seal it down on the edges with our thumbs. And so this is going to be a somewhat smaller baguette. So now that we have it shaped out, and I like to give it some height because when the bread rises, it kind of seeps out to the side some as well. So what we have is a pan now. So what I prepared my pan with some parchment paper. So I have some parchment paper here, and I have some semolina flour. And what this flour is going to do is going to give it a crispy bottom on the bottom of the bread. So I'm going to take some of this semolina flour, and I'm just going to sprinkle it on my parchment paper here. I like baking on the parchment paper. It gives it a nice crispy bottom. So we're gonna take our dough, I'm gonna put it out here, lay it on the parchment paper, and the next thing we're gonna do is I want a rustic finish to the bread. So I want the bread to have that rustic look. So what we do is we take some flour here, and then we just kind of dust the top of the bread with this flour. And then when we bake it, it's going to bake up, it's going to have that rustic look on it. So we have the flour on the top. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to score a couple of slices here in the bread with my knife here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let this rise again for probably about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we're going to preheat our oven to 420 degrees and prepare to get the bread in the oven. All right, so our baguette has been rising for 45 minutes now. It didn't rise as high as I would like. It kind of stretched out a little on the sides, but it still looks good. And what we're going to do next is we're going to get our oven started here. We're going to preheat the oven to 425. And I also have this pan here. We're going to place this pan in the oven and let it heat up with the oven. And what we're going to do is when we add our bread to the oven, we're going to pour a couple of cups of water in this pan. So it's going to give it kind of like a steam bath in the oven. And then that's going to give us a crusty top on our bread. So I'm going to get the oven started, and then we're going to get this pan in the oven, let that heat up. And then once everything is preheated and ready to go, we're going to add our bread to the oven. Okay, so our oven is preheated now to 425. We have our baguette ready to go. We have the water that we're going to place in the pan in the bottom of the oven, which was heating up in the oven as it preheated. So the oven is behind me here. I'm going to go ahead and stick this in. I'm going to pour our water into the oven pan. Now it's ready. It's in the oven and baking, and we're going to set our timer to 22 minutes. Okay, everyone. I just removed the bread from the oven, and it's baked up nice and brown. We have that rustic look on the top here. We're going to transfer this to a rack so we could cool it off. And just so you could hear that crusty top. So it should be crispy top and nice and soft on the inside. But we're not going to cut it right now, because if we cut it too soon, we're going to lose the height of the bread, because it's still warm on the inside and there's lots of air in there. So what we're going to do, let me go ahead and take this here, bring this over here like this, and with the help of my spatula here, I'm just going to take this loaf of bread, bring it right here in this rack to cool off. So we're going to let that cool for about 30 or 40 minutes, and then we're going to slice it open and take a look. All right, so our bread has been cooling off now for well over an hour, so it's nice and cool. So we're going to remove it from the rack here, and we're going to slice into this bread, and we're going to take a look inside. So that's good. We got a nice crust on the bottom. You can see that crust there on the bottom, and then we have air in the bread, which is good because bread should have air, so you could squeeze it down. So that's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a taste here. Tastes great. I like tasting the center of the bread because the bread is cooked well, and we have that nice crusty top on the bread here, where you can see the crust in the top, which is well. So this turned out fairly good. So what we're going to do is, now we have a baguette. You can make a nice sub sandwich with this. There's lots of ways you could go with bread, of course, we all know that. Sandwiches is a number one, but you can make some toast. You could add it to like maybe some garlic bread. You know, whatever you prefer, whatever recipes you like best to go with your bread. So I hope you enjoyed my recipe, and I thank you for viewing, and please have a good day.